This is Dr. Carol Haynes, Vice President of Academic Affairs, Spring Semester 2018. In this PowerPoint, I'd like to discuss a phenomenon that is occurring across the country on college campuses. Although we're seeing this behavior less on the Navarro College campuses, there have been several occurrences which prompts this discussion. As anyone who has listened to the news lately knows, the political and social climate in America has become increasingly tense over the past few years, particularly related to the subject of racial injustice. This tension has been seen in many areas of our society, but it has been expressed most vigorously on college campuses. Every week in the Chronicle of Higher Education, there are front-page articles about boycotts and protests at colleges across our country, including Texas A&M just down the road. Inevitably, this tension finds its way into the classroom, and students become sensitive regarding topics covering race and ethnicity. In addition, our culture in general today is much more assertive and argumentative than in past decades, and students are much more likely to stand up for what they believe to be their rights. This brings us to a term that may be new to you, microaggression. The definition of microaggression is an everyday verbal, nonverbal, or environmental slight, snub, or insult, whether intentional or unintentional, which communicates hostile, derogatory, or negative messages based solely upon a person's group membership. This definition came from Google. Notice that these comments can be intentional or unintentional, but most are based on stereotypes or opinions of people based on their identification with a group of people. The two areas we need to be particularly careful of in higher education are gender and race or ethnicity, since these are protected classes by the federal government, which means that complaints regarding these issues can result in Title IX cases. One example would be, "You did a great job for a girl." Why do we need to add the last part of that sentence? What does it matter whether the student is male or female? It's best not to distinguish between the sexes. Another example would be, "You should be great at football, you're African American." Once again, why would we single out a student based on his race? My opinion is that faculty members often want to be funny or engage students in conversation, but this isn't a good way to do so. We should value all students for who they are, but we shouldn't draw attention to a student being part of a student group, a certain group, even as a compliment. I had a faculty member ask me earlier this week if this topic was really a problem, and I answered yes, that I had 6 incidents of this type of behavior end up in my office this fall. So how do we avoid microaggression and racial tension in the classroom? First, we stress Navarro College's mission and values. Navarro College values diversity. Navarro College is proud to serve a diverse student population and faculty and staff based on many factors, including race and ethnicity, age, socioeconomic status, gender, sexual orientation, and nationality. If you haven't encountered students from these diverse populations, that doesn't mean they don't exist at Navarro College. With all these differences, there is one thing we hold true, that all of our students are equally valued and equally deserving of our respect and our attention. Second, as college professors, you have the difficult responsibility of promoting civil discourse in the classroom. You can do this by first helping students recognize the college experience is a time for learning how to think critically by challenging previously held belief systems and discovering there are many different points of view that are equally valid. I used to tell my English students that any belief worth having is worth challenging because it will still be worth believing. Thinking critically is based in gathering data, making research-based decisions, looking at other opinions, and applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information. Another way is reinforcing Navarro College's missions and value statements that value family and diversity. Another way is providing the discussion parameters or ground rules and explaining them to your students. Another way is tactfully calling out intolerant or hateful speech and redirecting students in a respectful, teachable way. We need to remember that the classroom is not an open forum for freedom of speech. Instead, we need to each remember that although we have opinions, we need to value other people's opinions also, and we need to express those opinions not as fact, but as opinion. And the classroom is not a place for our soapboxes, whether we are students or faculty. Also, we need to refrain from expressing remarks or opinions which might be considered insensitive. This goes back to those microaggressions that we talked about earlier. And lastly, we need to consider audience or appropriateness for the classroom. This is not limiting your content as an instructor. Instead, with freedom of instruction, faculty also have great responsibility to choose and present content wisely based on the appropriateness for their students. What is appropriate for a night class of 45-year-olds might not be appropriate for a dual credit class of 14-year-olds. Hopefully, this PowerPoint has given you the opportunity to think about your students and your classes. It is my hope that you never have a situation in class where you need to diffuse hateful or intolerant speech, but I hope you are prepared if called to do so. I also hope the PowerPoint has caused you to be thoughtful about ways that you can prepare your students to think critically and be respectful and tolerant during class discussions. Best wishes for a great spring semester. I sincerely appreciate all you do.